Okay, so for this question, it wants us to write down the shortest distance first. So if we have a quick look then, root A, well, up here, down here, just by quick glance, it should be quite nice to see. Straight across is obviously going to be pretty short, and then that looks pretty long, and you can't quite see it on there. But just look here, down there, and back up, definitely looks like the longest. So it's quite an easy question, this one to start with. Shortest is B, as we said, then A, then C, 1 mark for that. Okay, next one though is a little bit trickier. Now write down the routes in order of fastest time. So we've got this piece of information here to get our heads around first. Forest is twice as long as grassland. Sorry, yeah, the forest is twice as long as a grassland. Mountains is 3 times as long as grassland. The raft is 9 times as long as grassland. So we're going to have to use our diagram. So I'm going to start by focusing on route A. Now, yours may have been printed smaller, so you're going to have a slightly different number here. But if I measure route A, key part is at the top. 1 centimetre is the same as a kilometre. So however far it is in centimetres, that's how far you travel in kilometres. So then, let's have a look. 11 centimetres is this bit here. And that's where my 11 has come from. So perhaps I should write centimetres by there. Well, why have I times by 3? So mountains, let's have a look what it says on the previous page about mountains. The mountains is 3 times as long as grassland. So all of this is comparing to grassland. So I've simply just written multiply by 3. So for the next one, I've measured this. So again, quickly, as you can see, it's 9 centimetres. So maybe I should put the centimetres here again. Why have I times by 2? Well, I'm assuming then the forest is twice in terms of time as grassland, but let's have a look. Forest, twice as time as grassland, lovely. So that's why I've written times by 2. And then I've just repeated it for the other routes. So by here, 13 centimetres times 2. And then by here, 15. Well, why have I not written anything? Well, because grassland we know is what it's been compared to. So our grassland has to just remain as 15 centimetres or 15 kilometres. However else you want to interpret it. And then the last one is a little bit trickier. So if I measure this bit from here to here is 3.5 centimetres, which just means 3.5 kilometres. Now on the raft, obviously you need the raft to get across the water. Going to take a lot longer, guys. 3.5 centimetres times by 9. So let's have a look where the 9's come from. Well, there it is. The raft, 9 times as long as grassland. So that is why I've multiplied by 9. And then 5 times 2, so centimetres there. We already know that the forest has to be double the time as grassland. So now, nice and simple, all I'm going to do is use my answers for multiplying these to figure out each 3 of my routes. So route A, let's have a look. 11 times 3. Again, just look at the diagram. 11 times 3. And then I'm going to add that to 9 times 2. Like so. And that's giving me the answer of 51 centimetres or kilometres. Doesn't matter. We know it's a scale. So for B, where's this come from? Well, B was the trickier one. There's 3 parts. 3.5 centimetres, which is why it's 3.5 there. 3.5 times 9 across the water. Then I add that to 5 times 2, which gives me the answer of 45 centimetres / kilometres. Be careful, if you type all this in 1 on a calculator, you've got to put brackets around this part just to make sure that you multiply that first, don't make any silly errors. And then the last one, route C, was split into 2 parts. 15 centimetres was pure grassland, and then 13 times 2 for the remaining bit of the forest. So that's given me 41 centimetres or kilometres. So now we can compare these, 51, 45, 41. Which one is clearly the shortest? Well, 41, so 41 would actually be the quickest in terms of time. So this one is going to be first. So I've got fastest time C, then followed by B, and then followed by A because that was 51 kilometres. Where am I going to pick up the 4 marks? Well, for attempting to figure out all of these, so a lot of it is going to be picked up off your graph. If you have tried to multiply the centimetres by the times it says up above here, you would have picked up marks throughout. Obviously, for the full 4, you need the correct answers. But if you're a little bit unsure on where your marks come from, ask your teacher. Okay, bit of a long-winded one to start, so hopefully now we can pick up the speed. I found it easier on this one to just use a bit of trial and error. Now, you can use a little bit of logic. The 3 numbers have to times to get to 60, so you can think of factors of 60 if you want. But I started by literally choosing 3 different numbers, because it says here they're different, and see if they added to 15. So, what did I try? I started with 4, 3 and 8. I know that adds to 15, ticked it, but 4 times 3 times 8 did not. It gave me 96, which was pretty large. So I tried to focus on making these a little bit smaller. So I then went to 2, I halved the 4, 3, and then made this slightly bigger. 2 times 3 is 6, and I knew 6 times 10 would give me 60, so that worked. And do they add to 15? Yes, they do. So trial and error for me has worked here. It may have taken you a little bit longer, but eventually, what are the different ages? 2, 3, and 10. 1 mark if you've got some numbers which either multiply to 60 or add to 15. Obviously, for the 2 marks, you need to get all 3 numbers correct. Okay. Next question. Again, a lot of this I'm going to do on the diagram. You've got a diagram, I'll say it all the time, guys, got to use it to help you. So, 15 centimetres. Why have I written 3 centimetres here? Well, as you can see, from here to here has to be 15. So if there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 blocks, all I've done is divide 15 by 5 to find out what 1 block would be in terms of the blue. So if I hide the yellow, I'm only looking at the blue. Well, each one has to be 3 because they're identical. 3, 6, 9, 12, 15. Lovely. I've then done the same for the yellow, except there's 3 of them. So if you ignore the blue now, 5, 5 and 5. 5 add 5 is 10, add the 5 is 15. Lovely, that works. There's my workings on the side anyway. So I've done a lot of this without even reading the question. Okay, now let's have a look. So you would have already picked up marks here for finding these. Now the markers join. So if these markers join by here, let's have a look where they come from. What I'm going to do is just hide the left-hand side. So if I hide them, where's my 9 come from here? Well, we know 1 block of blue is 3 centimetres. 3, 3 and 3 is 9. So if from there to there is 9, from here all the way to here has to also be 9. Well, if this one's 5 centimetres, this gap has got to add 5 add something has got to fill up the whole 9 centimetres because they all line up. So obviously the missing number here has to be 4. So for this, full marks, 4 centimetres. Okay, so again, once you get going with this, there's quite a few different ways you can do it. So let's have a look where I started. Well, I just tried to see if there was much difference between a couple of these. Eggs and toast. Eggs, toast and mushrooms. So straight away I'm thinking, right, £1 has increased to £1.25, 25p more, what is equal to 25p? Hopefully now you can see the mushrooms have to be 25p if the eggs and toast is £1 and this is £1.25. Then after that I just looked at these, so I kind of ignored that for now. You may have found a different way. I saw eggs and sausage is £1.50. So what's the only difference between these two? Well, you've added tomatoes. So if you've added tomatoes, the gap between 150 and 165 is 15p. So the tomatoes have to be 15p. So that's where I started. So if we look below, zoom out a bit. Eggs and toast, £1. Eggs, toast and the mushrooms, £1.25. So I've said there the mushrooms are 25p, as we've already explained. Then there's my workings for the tomatoes, the same thing as what we've just done. The only difference here was was tomatoes, so for the S, if there's tomatoes here, fill in the missing gap was 15p. But from there onwards now, there's a few different ways you can do it. So as you can see with mine, it gets a little bit complicated. So what I first went to was here. I wrote down eggs and a sausage is £1.50, using above. I then saw eggs, sausage and toast is £1.30. So you may have already seen this. So how much is toast? Well, toast has to be 30p because the difference between the two is only some toast and it is a cost of £1.80. Then I've also done that at the top, as you can see here, 30p. Then with all the information I have found, I just started to find out anything else. So on my next one, I decided to find out the eggs were 70p. Because I knew the toast was 30 and 70 add 30 would get me to £1. And then after that, over here, I found out what sausage was. Eggs and sausage was £1.50. So all I'm doing is substituting in what I've already found here, 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 and to figure out the cost of every single item on breakfast. Then let's reread the question. What does Ethan want? Sausage, mushrooms, tomatoes and toast. So I've written down my different numbers here, 80p, 25p, 15p and 30p to get my final answer of £1.50. Again, you will pick up marks throughout, so providing you can find mushrooms and tomatoes, you're going to get 2 marks. Then, if you found toast, that's another mark, and eventually finding all of them and adding up to £1.50 will give you the full 3 marks. Bit of a long-winded one again. Okay, next question. If the height, length, and depth is all 50, hopefully you know it's a cube. So that's what I've written there, 50, 50, 50. We know there's no front, so now let's have a little think about what maths we're going to need. Rhiannon is going to paint inside and outside. So as soon as you see the word paint, I'm hoping you know area. Now we know all of these have to be squares. So if they're all squares and it's a cube, they're all identical. So the first thing we need to do is find out how many faces there are. Well, if we just count the outside faces first, 1, 2, the outside of here would be 3, and then the outside of here would be 4, so that's 4 outside faces. Now if we go with the inside, that's the other side of them, so 1, and then the one underneath, 2, the one tucked away here, 3, the one on the bottom, 4, so that's another 4, that's 8. However, the one I forgot originally was this one at the back. So this one at the back would now make it 9. You'd have to paint this one. Obviously, you're not going to paint the one that's attached to the wall. So how many faces are there in total? 9. That is your starting point. So let's have a look. Did I get that? Yes, I did. 9 faces in total. Well, what we do know is each face is a square. However, if this is in meters squared, I've written here must now find area in meters squared. So we've got to convert all of these to meters. Well, hopefully you know it would be 0.5 meters. And find the area of them. You cannot convert at the end, you've got to convert at the beginning. So I'm going to start now by finding the area of one face, which is 0.5 times 0.5, so it's 0.25 meters squared. However, we knew there was 9 of them, so I've now multiplied that by 9, which tells me I need 2.25 meters squared. However, a paint was 1.5 in a tin, so do we have enough? Well, quite clearly we don't. 1.5 is what we need, is what we have. 2.25 is what we needed. So show calculations, we've done that. So how do we know? So I've just finalised my answer with no, she can't paint all the faces, she can only paint 6 of them. Okay, anywhere along those lines would be fine. Where are we going to get the 3 marks from? Well, 1 for identifying 9 faces, and the second mark is for here, the 2.25. Third mark for your final answer of no. Okay, last but most certainly not the least. The clock shows Monday 6 AM. After 60 minutes, it will show Monday 7 AM. Nice and easy. We've added on an hour. After another 6,000 minutes, what will it show? So if you really want to, we could keep adding on a minute. 7:01, 7:02, 7:03, 7:04, but that sounds a bit ridiculous when you've got 6,000 of them. So could we potentially write this in hours? That is what I'm going to do first. How will I find in hours? I know there's 60 minutes in an hour, so I'm just going to divide 6,000 minutes by 60 to find out how many hours I have, which is 100. So now I know I've got 100 hours, we're on the right lines. I can start adding on 100 hours to here, I suppose. But then again, we're looking at days, we're looking at the fact that it's AM, it's getting a bit confusing, so I know that there, in one day, is 24 hours. So I started to find out, right, how close can I get to 100? So I can just add on a few days to the Monday. 2 days is 48 hours. 3 days is 72 hours. 4 days is 96 hours. So now I'm really close to 100. So I'm not going to add on another day. I know for a fact that I can only go 4 days minimum with a remainder of how many hours? 4 hours left. So it was Monday. So I'll add on 4 days to Monday. So Monday, add the 4 days, takes me to Friday at 7 AM. just by adding the 4 days on first. But don't forget, there was actually 4 hours left. So what will I do now? 7 a.m. plus the 4 hours would take me to 11 a.m., which is your final answer. So down the bottom, show the time, day, and AM or PM on this clock. Well, Friday is the time, is the day. 11 a.m. is the time. Don't forget the AM in the bottom for the full marks. So 1 mark for 100 hours. Then if you've identified 4 days, that would be 2 marks. Eventually then, your last 2 marks are going to be for finding out it's on a Friday and 11 a.m. And that is it, guys.